I was wearing denim shorts, I was not prepared, and I was like, wait, are we scaling the highest freaking mountain in Vietnam right now? Taco buddy! Come on, man, I'm trying to film a video. Babes, don't worry about it. Oh, should I sit on the ground? Okay, you know what? Oh dear, maybe this is a worse idea. Taco buddy, say hi! Hi! Ugh. They've been freaking unstoppable with these like eggy treats from Mini Patisserie. Not sponsored, okay. Down. Okay, maybe this angle is not the best. I think I need to switch up the feng shui. I need to like switch up the vibe.
Say hi, buddy. Nobody can see you when you kacau me under the table. But now, everybody can.
Anyway, hi guys. So, first of all, look at my freaking iPad. So cute. These stickers are from Chili Padi Studio. So this is going to be a very thorough review of my recent vacation or holiday. I'm going to tell you where I've been, what I ate, what I did, what would I do differently if I had known better, or if I'm going back again. And yeah, some recommendations and links for you guys to check out also. I've done one on Vietnam that is like for Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. So you can check them out here, I believe, in the eye, or I'll also link it down below. And today's episode is also going to be in Vietnam. My partner and I, we were kind of thinking of like a quick place to get away to, have a little holiday, enjoy the food, enjoy the vibes, have a change of weather, and not for it to be like too far or too expensive. So if you're not familiar with Sapa, this is a map of Vietnam, and it's all the way up north, a little bit west, but mostly north, that it literally meets the Chinese border. So that's how high up in Vietnam we're gonna go. Not just high up geographically, but also in terms of altitude, because it is a mountainous range. So Hanoi is usually where most people take their flights to, and then take either one of three options to get to Sapa. The first one is by train. It's very beautiful. Apparently it's along the coast, I believe, and it takes, I think, around 8 hours. I opted for the sleeper bus because it looked the most comfortable, I'll be honest, and it also took the shortest amount of time, and it was very, very easy to book. So we found our tickets on bookaway.com. The company we booked with is Sao Viet. We took like an evening flight over. We were planning to stay the first night in Hanoi, hit off the very next morning, take a sleeper bus, and go all the way to Sapa. Our journey there was very pleasant. I had never taken a sleeper bus before, so I was like quite enthralled, and I was like taking photos and be like, wow. So yeah, personal preference, I chose the sleeper bus. I think I paid around 75 USD for 2 tickets to and fro. So from what I understand, there's like Sapa's like main city center. That's where the office dropped us off. So throughout Sapa, especially in the city center, there are a lot of different hotels and a lot of accommodations. But if you want to go for like the more nicer, serene, eco villas, that's what we were there for. We personally wanted to experience a more nature-esque side of Sapa. So we booked villas and homestays sort of away from the city center in a nearby village. In my mind, I wanted to go to Sapa because of the expansive paddy fields, that lush green nature mountain. I was not expecting like rows of like cramped streets, and we were honestly both a little bit taken aback because we haven't done a lot of research, right? We didn't know what to expect. Like a set on Universal Studios or something, it feels like a theme park, and we were trying to find a taxi or any sort of transport to bring us to our villa. And our first stop is to this place called Gung House, and it gives the impression that it's a very rustic, very chill, very zen, very peaceful and private guest house. And it was gonna be like 2 million dong, or like maybe 120 Sing dollars for both nights. We didn't realize that like cab prices there were gonna be quite different from like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. If you don't know Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, it's like $50,000 to get you from a place to another place within like, you know, reasonable distance. And we thought it was gonna be the same way, but when we started asking around for prices and for transport, which by the way, there is like a fair bit of touting, especially when you're in the city center. There'll be people that want to sell you handmade stuff. Some of them are genuinely handmade, but some of them are not. And also people who want to offer you like a taxi service. And when we asked the first driver we'd ever come across, he said that it was 300k or 300,000 dong, which is around like 16 or 17 Sing dollars for like a 15-minute ride. And we genuinely thought that we were being like hustled and we looked for someone else and they gave us the same number. So we were like a little bit surprised and we thought that this was just like, again, standard like haggle, right? Now having experienced Chapa, like I understand, because cars are fewer and far between and because these are very windy mountainous roads and yeah, just not a lot of people want to drive it, you know, they might get like damage to their cars, whatever. I understand why it's more expensive now, but at that point I really had no idea. It's 15 minutes of a drive and we reached Gung House and it was not good. Oh my god. It was completely deserted. Almost all of the rooms were just unlocked and open. There were only like 2 Korean guys that were like checking out, but no one was attending to them. They were sitting there sort of waiting for someone also. And we walked around the entire compound and it is filthy. Like it is very, very dirty. It must have been sort of in disrepair and like under very poor maintenance for a while now, and it did not look like the listing at all. And at the same time, I got eSIMs for the both of us, but they didn't work in Chapa. They didn't work. Thank goodness they had a board with the name of the Wi-Fi and the password. We managed to like get internet and we were looking at the booking.com like confirmation and everything. Nothing seems to be the problem here, right? I've never encountered this before. I WhatsApped the number, they didn't reply. I was like calling this number and finally someone picks up and I was like, hi, we're here. And this guy shows up like within 5 to 10 minutes. And then he goes, okay, this is your room, and just brings us to one of the open rooms. We were like, and then we go in and it's super hot, it's super stuffy. The bathroom was still wet, there was still trash on the sink. Hello, editing Brenda here, I forgot to mention this, but right where the shower is of the bathroom, there is literally a brick that can be removed so someone can basically watch you shower. I'm gonna try and see if I have photos, but yeah, basically after I saw that I was like, I don't think I can stay here, man. It was just a mess, man. And he was insisting for me to pay him cash even though my booking was already confirmed and it says that my card will be charged. After a whole lot of back and forth, I realized that I could cancel and try and ask for a refund, and we just like refused to give them cash and we just left. Like we were like, I'm so sorry, I think we're gonna go. And so we just took our stuff and we literally just like walked down the road. My partner, like the true lesbian she is, has like a Patagonia backpack, but I had my freaking luggage on wheels that I had to put on my head, and I just like was walking down the road aimlessly. We downloaded offline maps, but again, because we don't have internet connection, we didn't know where we were going. So we just literally on that same road from where Gung House turns out, which by the way, these houses are not like next to each other. They are all sort of just like on the side of the mountain. Like on each cliff, like, you know, it spirals, right? So it's like just random scattered villas everywhere. We saw some in the valley as well, so we were walking downhill. That day, I don't know why, the sun was like extra hot, and you know it's a high altitude, right? So it felt the same as Singapore, just maybe a like slightly cooler, like maybe 28, 29. And you know what, we did actually end up seeing a bunch of different like villas and homestays, like accommodations, but there was just no one there. Like no one managing it, no one that we could call, just completely deserted. So we just kept walking until we found one which wasn't deserted, and that was Chapa Stream House. They're new. It is quite beautiful. Like it's right on the side of the river in the valley, and it was actually in front of another place that we had shortlisted. I think it's called like River Eco Valley or something like that lah. I think it was around the same price as we would have paid for Gung House, but it was a lot nicer. It was very new. The architecture of the room is just quite interesting. It's very beautiful. I guess our only complaint is that it got pretty hot, especially throughout the day, because it's like a small little hut and we were facing the west directly, so the sunlight was like coming directly in, and like I said, it was super hot that day, and it had no ventilation unless you open both doors. But we were also near like a rice field and we didn't want any of the flies to come in. I think if you go now, maybe like late October towards maybe early February, you'll be able to find the weather a lot cooler, and maybe Chapa Stream House would be like perfect for you. But for us, it was just like a little bit hot, man, even with 2 standing fans. But at night, it got a lot better, and we just opened like the doors on both sides to be able to let the cool air in and out, and then we would just like close it right before we slept. Yeah, and I'd say like service is okay, it's good enough, and it was really a place that we needed to find. We ended up spending some time ordering room service, just recuperating. Here's me playing in a river and just chilling. I think I was there with like someone else who was catching crabs and a kid and his parents who were just like splashing and throwing rocks. And the water is very cold and refreshing and cooling. And the thing about Sapa is that it's so beautiful. So now that we like finally had a place to stay and just to soak in the surroundings, that's exactly what we wanted to do. And it just felt really different from when we were at the city center, where it was sort of like higher on the mountains. Would definitely recommend you to like stay at least a night or two in some of the villages. So this village was called Tavan Village, so we just walked around Tavan and we were trying to like look at different homestays, and there's so many cute lovable stray dogs. So that was our first night, pretty uneventful, but the point of this trip was to really like enjoy and take a slower pace towards everything. So the next day we had originally planned to go to a market and then also go to Fansipan. Okay, initially my partner did not want to go to Fansipan because she thought it was very touristy, but I was like, I'm a tourist, like I want to go and see. And we also wanted to visit like a handicraft, art and kind of like food market. So we were looking at different markets, and there are a couple that are super touristy-fied. Bakar Market I think was one of the ones that was like highly recommended but also highly unrecommended by people who just found it like too crowded and too touristy and a bit too artificial. And so we wanted to find like another sort of more indie market to check out. And in order to be able to do all those things, we wanted to just like put it out of our minds. We'll hire a driver to take us around for the entire day. So my partner like vaguely remembers this market being a little bit more out of the way and a little bit more interesting. Either that or she maybe like researched it and wanted to go check it out. But it's called Muong Hom Market. Basically you travel in the car for like 2 hours, which again, by the way, wasn't cheap. So initially we thought we booked it for the full day, but apparently you gotta tell them where you're going and they'll calculate it based on where you go. So our first stop was to Muong Hom, and then to Fansipan, and then to the city center to draw more cash because we were running low on cash, and then go back to Chapa Stream House. We set off at like 8, we reached at like 10:30. I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting a little bit more handicrafts. It just is a wet market. They have live animals for sale, for slaughter. They have like baked goods, like the very simple ones that they'll eat. Stuff that you would use, like your home supplies, buckets, mops. And it wasn't at all directed towards the tourists. So on one hand, it is very authentic, but on the other hand, it might be a little bit boring, you know? I like that it was very authentic, and I like that it's mostly locals. I think we were one of the only tourists to be there. We decided to like go and try this thing. I don't know what it's called. The auntie and I just kind of like gestured because we had like straight up, I knew zero Vietnamese, she knew zero English. We were just trying to make things work here. So we ended up pointing to the food that we saw her making. It looks so good. It's like this like glutinous rice flour crepe looking thing, a bit like chi chong fan, but even more chewy. They add a little bit of like a light fish sauce, lime, sugar kind of sauce, and they add a little bit of mushroom, black fungus, all chopped up, and it's slaughtered in between the layers of the glutinous rice flour crepe that is then rolled up and cut. It's bloody good. It's bloody good. There was a queue before us and people were ordering like literally 8-9 servings, and we were like, oh my god. We ended up having our first serving. We slurped it down immediately. It is so light, so refreshing, and so incredibly tasty that we immediately, after we finished eating, just like looked at the aunties like, 2 more, and we were just there enjoying like the best little snack. So after we had that snack and we walked around, there wasn't anything else that we wanted to get, so we decided to head to Fansipan. And Fansipan is kind of in between where we were going and where we were coming from. So it's closer to our villa and like the city center in general. So we traveled back maybe an hour and 10 minutes or 20 minutes. The tickets were like 60 Sing dollars. And we didn't expect that. Like, I thought it was gonna be like $10 or $15. So I was like a little bit taken aback, and I knew that my partner wasn't like super keen on taking the cable car. So I was kind of like, man, like I could do something else also. But the receptionist at the villa did tell us that we were gonna take at least 2 to 3 hours. And we didn't really like register in our heads why that would be. Like, it's just a cable car ride, right? So we were like, okay, we don't know. We just went in there with like zero research, zero context. And I'm not gonna lie, our first 10 minutes, I very dang near regretted it because it was like the most cheesy like photo ops ever. Like, it's not like Universal Studios where it's like really cool and like you're transformed into different place. This one was just like a like I love Sapa kind of like a bit like Obyang kind of vibes, okay? So when we finally got to the cable car, we were surprised because the cable car is actually really fucking huge. We went on a Monday, so by the way, during the weekends there is like a slight surcharge, so if you can help it, go on a weekday, there's also less people. But when we went on the cable car, they have that like English voiceover, right? And then we found out that Fansipan is the peak of Indochina. Like, it is the highest bloody point, not just in Vietnam, but in the whole Indochina region. So we did not know that we were heading to the peak until we were already halfway there. Like, this cable car, at the time it was built, it was like the longest, now it's the second longest, but it's a bloody long cable car ride that takes you 3/4 or maybe even more up to the peak of the mountain, and then you hike like a little bit more, or you can take the funicular, which is the train that they were talking about. And I was floored. I was like, what? I was wearing denim shorts, I was not prepared, and I was like, wait, are we scaling the highest freaking mountain in Vietnam right now? We decided to do the hike just because we wanted to feel like we earned getting up to the peak, and we had some time anyway, and it's very, very beautiful. Like, you get to see these like big Buddhist structures. I'm not a Buddhist personally, but honestly, it was still very serene and beautiful and just like a sight to behold. If it's foggy, you really can't see much. It was almost like more magical, the fact that it was foggy, and when we reached like another statue, suddenly the fog clears up and suddenly you can see it like super perfectly, and then it just disappears again. So that was our experience. It was really quite magical. It's really like a testament to like human engineering and like sheer dedication, because how the hell did you build all of these like magnificent, huge structures on top of a mountain that is like the highest one? These are very steep steps, but they are like well paved for you, and that's why the ticket is $60. Now I get it. I think it was a lack of research on our part, right? But no one on TikTok at least talked about the fact that Fansipan was like the highest point. They just say, look how cute, and then I go, wow, it is very cute. But it was a very pleasant surprise. We ended up reaching the peak, I think, in like an hour, and there was like a ski lodge type of cafe on the side where the funicular station is, so like one step down from the peak, and we managed to have this like really yummy salt coffee. One of my core memories for sure. Highly recommend. Later that evening we had dinner also in Tavan village, and it's famous for their salmon hotpot. And at first we were like, this is a mountain, why do y'all have salmon? But they actually do have a lot of freshwater fisheries. Maybe 40 sing for 2 people. So much food, so generous, and that broth, fish flavor, tomato flavor, like just like a nice hearty broth, so good. We also ended up being the only customers besides their own like family and friends. Like, we basically crashed like their family and friends like gathering. Next morning we went for a trek. Now, I booked my trek on Airbnb with Chan, but she has since told me that Airbnb takes like a pretty big cut, and she would prefer it if you just like reached out to her directly. So yeah, the trek was amazing. Chan is really good. She is such a formidable woman, man. She is so impressive, very knowledgeable. Her English is very good. She was born and raised in Sapa as a Hmong woman, and Hmong people are an ethnic minority in Vietnam, and they're indigenous to the area. I was saying Hmong the whole time, but she herself says Hmong, so I'll just go with her pronunciation of Hmong. She was able to answer all of our questions. We were able to get more acquainted with the terrain. I think it's a pretty well established, like low medium, like just challenging enough type of route, through paddy fields, through like a little bamboo forest, and we ended up having lunch at her place in Tavan where her family stays. They built the house themselves. It was an amazing lunch. Like, it was just home cooked food with the freshest ingredients. I've never tasted such tasty rice in my life. Honestly, I would say that's one of my favorite meals in Sapa. It's not the cuisine or the way of cooking specifically that blows you away over there. It's the quality of their ingredients. It's just so fresh. Oh my god, I've just like never eaten like that before. That home cooked meal was phenomenal. It was very simple, as you can see, and she clearly like didn't romanticize it at all. She's like, I like this rice because it cooks the fastest. Also, I think after the hike I was just super hungry, so I had like 2-3 servings of rice. It was crazy. By the way, there was also like an older Hmong woman that followed us on the trek, and they do this quite a lot. They'll just tag along tourists and they'll help you out, and you know, they'll like hold your hand as you go through like more slightly muddier parts of the trek, and like just smile at you and follow you, and at the end they will try to sell you the handicrafts. And Chan, the tour guide, did tell us that this is not like her friend, they're not in cahoots, they don't know each other, but she understands why this lady is doing this to try and earn money, because outside of like rice harvesting, right, there's not much else you can do and there are no jobs available. So yeah, we ended up like buying a few things from her. Oh, I can kind of show you. And Chan was also saying that they try to read you as a tourist, like they see how expensive you look and they'll try to price according to how expensive you look. So I think I must have looked a little bit more expensive than I would have liked, because this was not cheap. But I got a pillowcase, and we also got like a little pouch basically for 300,000. Yeah, that's something else to note. I noticed while we were walking by the village after dinner that there was a spa place. There was the only spa place. It was very big. It looked the most established. I think it's called Dao Spa. And I asked these like white girls that were just like about to leave, I was like, hey, is it any good? And they were like, oh, so good, like you have to come by. And I was like, okay, I'm coming by. So I told a very nice lady at Dao Spa, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back tomorrow after my trek. It's beautiful. And then I have the massage. And I truly, honest to God, believe that my masseuse was pretending to be a masseuse and didn't actually know anything about massaging people at all. She, instead of pressing down and massaging me, she was like almost like moving my skin. It was so weird. And she basically like kept pulling my body to the point that the bed would move several times. I was in the couple's room with my partner, right? And I did not hear any squeaking or anything. Like, it was not a specific style of massage that I wasn't used to. I had already said, oh, can you press harder? And she did not understand what harder meant. Like, more, harder, didn't understand that. That I feel like is already a red flag, because even if that's not in your language, if you're working in a spa that caters to mainly tourists who all kind of speak English, I feel like you would at least know what harder and softer meant. Like, you have to know that to be able to do your job well, right? A little bit confused, but I was still like, I guess this is it. It got worse and worse as time went by. By the end, I was like really excited for the head massage. I love head massages. This masseuse, instead of massaging my head, starts karate chopping my head, and this, like, basically slapping my forehead and karate chopping it. And it was so painful. Never, like, I am so awkward. I try not to speak like at massages at all. I don't like to make sounds. It was so hard that for a moment I was like, ow, like I wanted to say ow, but I like kept it in, and I was like just grimacing, hoping that she would notice. And she went on chopping my freaking head for like 30 good seconds. Like, there were at least 30 chops in there. I was actually so shocked in the moment that I was genuinely like, I couldn't say anything. After that, it was just over, right, the massage, and I was just like in shock. And when I came out of the room, that auntie is already there, like doing this, like waiting for a tip, and I just completely ignore eye contact from her, because it seemed like she just wanted to get the job done and get a fat tip. Like, she didn't actually care to massage me at all. And it was one of the worst massages. Like, my forehead started throbbing. One of the ladies that was just there like asked me a cursory, like, how was it? And I was like, I just want to let you know. And I came very close to her because that auntie was like following me. And I was like, that was one of the worst massages I've ever had in my life. And I go to the toilet, I like try to cool down a little bit, but like I'm already like frustrated. I don't know if anyone like ever relates, but when you so badly just want to relax and then you just feel sort of like violated or like taken advantage of in the moment, because this woman clearly did not know how to massage anybody, and I just felt like I was just like there being prodded and like slapped on my forehead. So I had like a little angry cry in the toilet and I came out. And the auntie was still, by the way, trying to like come up to me to ask for a tip. So they finally sent her away. They just didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say also. And then I was like, okay, but do you want to know why it was so bad? And then they were like, yes, yes. I was like, okay, because I wanted to tell them so that they knew why I was upset and like what had been done. So I told them the whole thing about dragging me around the bed, not really like pressing. And then when I started talking about the forehead, my voice broke. And thank goodness like my partner was there to comfort me, because I was just like so like bewildered. Like I just don't understand like what the fuck just happened and why my forehead is like throbbing so bad. I think after they saw that, like they knew that I was really upset. So they ended up like waiving my massage as a way of like apologizing. And I mean, there was not much else they could do. Oh, they wanted to offer me like another massage, but I was like, I'm leaving this village today and like honestly I don't want to take it. And the funny thing is, no one seemed particularly surprised that it was my masseuse. So I don't know if like they've had this like complaint before or what. So yeah, I really sincerely hope that she's not working there anymore, and I hope that she's doing something else other than massaging people. So yeah, that was my one and only spa experience. I didn't end up going to any other spas anymore. And we ended up going to Eco Palm's house. I love Eco Palm's. It is the perfect mix between like rustic and like natural and extremely detail oriented and comfortable and very thoughtful. Like the hospitality is A+. I thought it was the best value for my buck. It is beautiful. They do tell you beforehand there's no air conditioner, there's no fridge, there's no TV. Like it's a natural place, so there will be bugs. But when we went in, it's so much cuter, and the room itself is exactly what you would need. Like it's just enough. It's very rustic and beautiful, very well built. There's a little like canopy kind of area that you can just like open the door and sit out. The photos don't really do that much justice, to be honest. We got the suite with the mountain view so that my bathtub had the beautiful mountain view, and I was just like very excited for the vibes. Very well maintained. Service was absolutely impeccable. Very well oiled machine. The compound is beautiful. The view was fantastic. Freaking hell, we had dinner there and it was so yummy. So Eco Palms is apparently started by a couple, a Vietnamese couple, and if I'm not wrong, the wife is a chef. She was the one that came up with all the dishes. So yeah, it was really nice to have like an amazing meal right at our villa. The pool was beautiful. It has one of those like natural rock infinity pools that unfortunately I didn't get to swim in. It's deep. It's like 1.8 meters. Eco Palms, I'd really wholeheartedly recommend it. The first night we reached there a little bit later already, and this is the other thing about Sapa, is that the sun sets pretty early if you're going during like winter time. So I would say October all the way to February. It gets dark at like 5:30 and you kind of lose a couple of hours in that day, because once it gets dark you can't really see the view anymore and most places close. So that's just a trade-off. If you want to go when it's cooler, you also know you have less hours in the day. So the next morning we decided to do a little bit of exploring on our own. We decided to rent a motorbike, and initially we were a little bit concerned because I don't ride, my partner rides. When she's pillioning me, she was like a little bit scared that the mountainous like rocks might be a little bit dangerous for us to both ride, and we were like on a mountain cliff and it can be quite chaotic sometimes because the roads are narrow but there's a lot of traffic and some like bigger vans and cars that kind of go by. We ended up just like taking it chill. Right down the street, we just like rented a bike. Hi, editing Brenda here. It took a week to edit, so I'm still editing this. Once we managed to rent the bike, our first stop was to Chat Chat Village. It is nearby, and Chat Chat Village is known for its natural beauty and preserving the Hmong culture, so you'll be able to see a lot of their cultures and traditions, all that cool stuff. It's definitely a very manicured village, and a lot of people tend to go there for photo ops, so yeah. Like, it's quite artificial, and the people that work there seem to be quite grumpy. I don't know why, but the village itself, like, it's quite beautiful, and then there's a lot of like influencers dressing up in, I would say, glamorized Hmong costumes, warrior princess type of like cosplay, and taking a bunch of photos. My main point of going to Chat Chat Village was for me to be able to see these weaving looms, all of these handicraft, because I personally have an interest in them. Some of them were working on it, but I didn't feel comfortable enough to stay there to look for long because then they would start asking for money basically. So yeah, the music performance, like this time performance is very skippable. Yeah, if you're not in a rush, I guess it's worth checking out, but if you are, I'd say skip it. And then we just drove up and down the side of the mountain, checked out a bunch of stuff, nothing very consequential, honestly. We would just like zoom in, vibe in, enjoying the scenery, stopping at like random like photo corners. This was like 20,000 like dollars, like 10,000 per person for us to like just enjoy and be able to take photos. If not, they don't let you stay there basically. That day it actually got cooler and we didn't realize, so we didn't pack jackets and we were freezing. I definitely bring a jacket with me the next time I decide to do that. But yeah, we managed to like return our bikes, get back by sunset, and then the next day back to Hanoi. Oh, and then by the time we got back to Hanoi, I'll just include this very quickly in case you're wondering, we went to eat at this place called Banh Mi 25. Not nice, not nice, can skip. And then we also had a drink opposite Pizza 4Piece while waiting for Pizza 4Piece. Pizza 4Piece is an Italian place opened by like a Japanese company in Vietnam and they're doing super well. And last year when I went to the one in Ho Chi Minh, I really loved it. So it was nice to go to the Hanoi one. Highly recommend, food is very good. So yeah, that's the end of the trip. So overall, I'd say that I enjoyed my trip. I was a little bit taken aback by the amount of construction going on because they're really like trying to build more villas, more hotels, more resorts, more like touristy things, and it's developing very quickly, but a lot of them are also sort of like scattered. So there's construction everywhere. It's a little bit chaotic. Definitely not the tranquil, like super laid-back village that I expected, but there still are pockets of these sort of villages in the valley. But discounting the construction, overall Sapa is still a very, very beautiful place, and there are still villages and, you know, parts that are deeper that have not been so developed. And they are really, really beautiful, just like natural landscapes, and the food is really fresh. And it was just nice to get it off my bucket list. So I don't regret going there at all, but it might be a couple of years before I visit again. So yeah, that's my trip to Sapa. I hope you guys found it helpful and enjoyable, entertaining at least. Let me know where else you would like me to go. Honestly, why not? Let's do it. If you haven't already, subscribe. Okay, see you soon. Bye. What I would do differently, yes, so, oh sorry guys, oh my god, I'm getting too, guys, please chill. So this is going to be like, now there's a couple of noodles, not the squeaky toy. That's annoying, babes. Don't do that, please, no.